In the shadowed embrace of the rugged mountains, where the wind carried whispers of ancient pines and the chill of autumn bit deep into the earth, lived a retired K-9 named Ranger. His days were spent in a humble off-grid cabin with his owner, Elias, a seasoned hunter who had taken him in after years of service. Ranger's fur was streaked with gray, his body marked by old scars from battles long-forgotten bullet grazes, shrapnel wounds that still ached on cold nights. His eyes, once sharp as a hawk's, now held the quiet wisdom of age. But his heart? It never retired. It beat with the unyielding rhythm of a guardian, always watchful, always ready. Elias and Ranger were inseparable, partners in the quiet life of the wilderness, often venturing out together on hunts that reminded them both of their glory days. One crisp morning, as the sun climbed over the jagged peaks, painting the sky in hues of golden light, Elias shouldered his rifle and called to Ranger. "Come on, boy. Let's track that elk we've been after." Ranger's tail wagged with familiar excitement, his limp barely noticeable as they set off into the deep forest. The air was thick with the scent of damp moss and fallen leaves, elk tracks leading them deeper into the underbrush. Man and dog moved as one, Elias scanning the horizon, Ranger's nose to the ground, picking up every subtle trail. Hours into the hunt, as they crested a rocky ridge, something stirred in the shadows. A low growl rumbled from the trees ahead. Elias froze, signaling Ranger to hold. Out stepped a massive grizzly bear, its fur matted and eyes wild, defending what must have been a nearby cache of food. The encounter was sudden, charged with primal tension. The bear reared up, roaring a thunderous challenge that echoed through the pines. Elias raised his rifle, but in the chaos, his foot slipped on wet moss. He fired a warning shot that grazed the bear's shoulder, sending it lumbering away into the fog. But the recoil and uneven ground betrayed him. Elias tumbled down the ridge, crashing through branches and rocks, his legs snapping with a sickening crack as he landed in a heap at the bottom. Pain exploded through Elias's body. Blood seeped from the wound, staining the earth. He reached for his radio, shattered in the fall. His screams were swallowed by the indifferent trees. The grizzly's roar faded into the distance, but the danger lingered. Coyotes would soon scent the blood. "Ranger!" Elias gasped, clutching his broken leg. The dog had scrambled down after him, unharmed but whining with worry, licking his owner's face. Elias knew the night would be merciless: hypothermia, blood loss, predators. They were miles from the cabin, and with his injury, he couldn't move. Whispering prayers to the family he'd left behind in distant memories, he stroked Ranger's head. "Boy, you gotta get help." Ranger's instincts kicked in like embers igniting a fire. He paced anxiously, then bolted up the ridge, disappearing into the forest. Elias watched him go, heart heavy with hope and fear. "Good boy, come back." The forest was a labyrinth of shadows and silence as Ranger raced homeward. He pushed through thick underbrush that snagged at his fur, leaped over fallen logs, and navigated fog-drenched pines. Relying on scent memory and the familiar paths they'd trodden together, he ignored the ache in his old joints. Wind shifted directions, but he adjusted, driven by loyalty. Age melted away. He moved like the young soldier he once was, determined eyes cutting through the gloom. This was his mission, perhaps his greatest. Back at the empty cabin, Ranger burst through the dog flap, panting heavily. His eyes locked on the old military duffel bag in the corner, his survival kit from service days, packed with essentials: a flare gun, a compact water pack, an emergency blanket, field bandages, and a locator beacon. Grabbing the strap in his teeth, he dragged it toward the door, the weight no match for his resolve. With a final heave, he maneuvered it over his back, securing it as best he could with paws and jaws. Then, without pause, he dashed back into the wilderness, retracing his steps to Elias. At the ravine, Elias faded in and out of consciousness. Pain throbbed like a drum in his leg. Cold numbed his fingers, and blood loss blurred his vision. Coyotes howled closer, their eyes glinting hungrily from the undergrowth. "This is it," he thought, his breath shallow. Then twigs snapped nearby. A familiar silhouette emerged from the mist. 4 legs, a wagging tail, collar tags jingling softly, the kit slung across his back. "Ranger, you came back," Elias whispered, tears welling. The dog dropped the kit at his feet. With trembling hands, Elias unzipped it. He wrapped his leg with the bandages, stemming the bleed. He sipped from the water pack, feeling strength trickle back. Unfolding the emergency blanket, he huddled beneath its silver warmth. Then, the flare gun. Bang! A red streak pierced the sky. Like a desperate plea. Finally, he activated the locator beacon, its steady beep cutting through the isolation. But the night deepened its grip. Temperatures plummeted, frost glittering on the leaves. Coyotes circled closer, growling low. Elias grew weaker. Ranger positioned himself between his owner and the shadows, a deep rumble in his throat, warning off the predators. "You're staying with me?" Elias shivered. Without hesitation, Ranger curled up across his chest, sharing warmth with every breath, his body a living shield. The flare and beacon summoned rescuers. Search teams mobilized, helicopters whirring overhead, ATVs and foot patrols converging on the signal. A storm rolled in, winds howled, trees bent, snow flurries thinned, visibility to near zero. "Signal strong 2 miles out," a rescuer barked over the radio. "Move fast, before the blizzard hits." They pressed on, battling the elements with grit mirroring Ranger's own. Elias's breathing turned ragged, lips blue from the cold. He slipped toward unconsciousness, but Ranger refused to let him go. Nudging his chin, whining urgently, pawing his chest, the dog kept him awake, curling tighter to share every ounce of heat. Ranger's eyes, fierce and unblinking, held the line against despair. Then, flashlights pierced the gloom. Voices echoed through the storm. "Over here! We found him!" Rescuers swarmed, assessing Elias, prepping a stretcher. One knelt, stunned. "Who brought the survival kit?" "A dog did this?" Elias whispered weakly. "My hero, with 4 legs." They lifted him carefully, and Ranger limped alongside, exhausted but triumphant, as they evacuated through the whipping snow. Back at the cabin, as dawn broke, Elias recovered slowly under medical care, his legs set and mending. Ranger collapsed by the fireplace, his gray fur glowing in the warm light. On the wall hung the survival kit, a photo of Elias smiling from his hospital bed, and a medal mailed with a note. "To the dog who never stopped serving. Some heroes never hang up their duty. Some hearts never stop protecting. And some legends walk on 4 tired, loyal paws."